Hello, we are the horticulture team at UF IFAS Extension, Seminole County, and today we're going to teach you why to take a soil sample, how to do it, and how to ship your soil sample to get results. My name is Hannah Wooten, the Sustainable Agriculture and Food Systems Extension Agent, presenting with my colleagues.
I'm Tina McIntyre, Florida Friendly Landscaping Agent.
And I'm Katie McCormick, the Residential Horticulture Agent and Master Gardener Volunteer Coordinator.
Soil testing is a great practice that can help your plants thrive while preserving your pocketbook and your local environment. It is recommended to test your soil before you apply fertilizer to ensure conditions are ideal for your plants to access nutrients without applying too much, which can lead to water quality issues, or too little, which could lead to poor plant performance. First, you need to determine the site that you plan to fertilize, whether it's your home garden, your front yard lawn, or a part of a farming operation. You're going to need a few tools to be able to make sure that you collect a proper soil sample. You can use a common garden trowel, a soil probe that might be better for larger sites or for professionals, and either way, you will need a bucket to collect your soil samples. A good soil sampling practice is to take approximately 10 random samples from the site that you plan to fertilize, doing it randomly and in a zigzag pattern. We're going to work with Tina here so that she can show us how to actually go about taking those samples. Tina, what are the first steps that you do to actually prepare the turf or the sample site to take a sample?
Yeah, so we're in a representative location of where we want to sample, and we're going to start by moving aside the actual sod or debris that you have in your landscape. Once you've successfully moved that aside, you're going to insert your probe to be able to start to take your soil sample. You can see now that I have a soil profile, and I'm also going to put this into my bucket. Today we're making a composite sample, and it's important that we take multiple samples throughout our location so that we can get, again, a representative sample of our soil. That's the first start to our sample. We're going to now do this 10 times to be able to make one composite sample that we'll then send to the laboratory. So now we're going to remove any debris that we have in our sample. This could include pieces of grass, leaves, mulch, or other random things that may come out of the soil. Now it's time to thoroughly mix our soil. So now out of our sample, we're going to take 1 cup of our composite soil down here. Again, removing any roots, rocks, or debris. Perfect. So again, we're doing a soil test because we better want to understand the pH and the nutrients that are already in our soil. The pH drives the amount of nutrients that the plant can absorb. So if our pH is too low or too high, we may have a problem absorbing that nutrients. We also want to understand the micro and macronutrients that exist in our soil so we can better allocate how much fertilizer we want to apply to our turf or landscape. In some areas of the country, it's actually required by law. For example, here in Seminole County, you have to have a soil test of phosphorus prior to applying any phosphorus to that soil. So we recommend doing a soil test about every 3 years and absolutely prior to applying your fertilizer. So once you do that soil test, it's really generally going to be the same for 3 years. So if you do it prior to fertilizing, you can use that test for about 3 years to manage your nutrient application. We have our soil from outside, so we're going to take this and we're going to add it to our soil bag for sending to the laboratory. First, we're going to use our Sharpie to label our bag. You might have a bag provided from the laboratory which has the name, address, city, crop, and sample ID that you'd want to list there. So you can fill that out, or you can use a Ziploc bag. Now, a Ziploc bag might actually mold the sample, so it's really important to dry your sample prior. So before we do that, we're going to just go ahead and spread our soil onto this paper towel, and we're going to let it dry. Now, I have some here that is actually already dry. So what we're going to do is label our bag. And our crop here is turf, but it could be our veggie garden. And we're just going to label it as sample A, B, C, or you could even do by the sidewalk, by the big tree, etc., etc. Now that our bag is labeled, we're going to open it and go ahead to insert our dry soil. Now again, it's very important that this soil is dry, because if you use a plastic bag, it could actually lead to mold. And if you use a paper bag, well, it might actually just fall through. So for example, over here, we have a very, very wet soil sample, and you can see that this bag is really just busting at the seams. There's water dripping from it, and the paper is about to actually open. So you really just want to make sure that you allow adequate time for your soil to dry. So again, we're going to put about 1 cup of our soil into the bag and send it to the laboratory. We're going to make sure that that bag is nice and securely closed. And then we're going to start to fill out our form and box it up.
So once we have our soil sample all prepared to ship off, we do need to fill out the soil testing form as well for the laboratory that we've chosen. Depending on the lab, the form is going to be a little bit different. UF in particular has quite a few different soil testing forms based off of what you're actually testing. For today though, we're going to be using the landscape and vegetable garden test form, because the sample that we took was from a residential lawn. So when you're looking at your test form, you want to make sure you fill it out as thoroughly as possible. If the lab includes crop codes, you're going to be using those crop codes. And we're going to be having our sample ID that we put on the actual sample bag, the county that was from, the crop code that the lab uses, and the estimated acreage or square feet. Once that's done, you want to circle the test that you're actually going to be doing. And then we'll go ahead and fold this up and make sure to include it in the box that we're sending the sample form in. The address for the lab is on this form, so you might want to copy that down before you put it in your box. And make sure when you're packaging this all up that you do include whatever form of payment the lab takes. So we'll just go ahead and stick our lab form into our box here, as well as the soil sample that we packaged up earlier. And now this box is ready to go to our local post office and be shipped off to the soil lab.
Soil testing helps us to fertilize properly so that we can protect our water resources.
And also keep our plants looking pretty and healthy.
And by using proper fertilization practices and using the right amount of fertilizer, it helps to make sure that you aren't using too much, which means that you can save money and literally not be putting your fertilizer down the drain, which goes right back to that water quality. So we want to make sure that our fertilizer that we apply is taken up by the roots of our plants and affects the proper plant performance so that we can have plants and gardens that thrive.